Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle. Today's the 14th of August, 2019. We had planned to do this stream an hour ago, and then we had breaking news that in Philadelphia there was an active shooter, so we just did a show on that. But to recap, if you're just catching this up, we did get something new out of this. So tell them about it again. What happened? What's happening?
Police officers in North Philly were serving a narcotics warrant when the suspects inside of a building opened fire on the cops. Police officers and SWAT teams all rushed to the scene of the Wild West where shooting bullets. Eyewitnesses said were ricocheting off of the pavement. It sounded like a gun battle, a war zone. 6 officers are injured, 1 shot in the head. No injuries are expected to be life-threatening. The suspect is currently live streaming on Facebook. We don't know. I don't believe anybody can watch that. I'm guessing that maybe Facebook somehow has it patched into the police. I don't know how they do that.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
2 officers are pinned down in this house with the 2 detained suspects. Wow. So we have some serious issues going on right now. That is the latest breaking news right now. And of course, when we make
the fact that they have 2 officers pinned down in there, that's really terrifying.
That is pretty terrifying.
Because, and I think that's why the situation probably hasn't been resolved yet.
Yeah.
Because you can't resolve a situation when you've got 2 officers. Lives at stake like that. I mean, you can't just go in and bust them up or, whatever they do. You literally cannot do it. But as a reminder, we did cover a lot more detail in our last stream. But as we continue this show, which we're going to do our regular show that was previously planned, we're going to keep checking back for the latest updates on what is going on in Philadelphia, because this is so crazy. Now, that's quite the tweet there, Leah. It says, the left, F the police, 6 cops shot. The left, F Trump and the NRA, they got 6 cops shot. And that is kind of the narrative, and it's infuriating, actually.
Yeah.
That's how they are doctors of spin. They are professionals at taking whatever headline, whatever's going on out there, and just twisting it.
Hashtag Philadelphia, bring the shooters some Starbucks.
Wow.
So we see my face when
crazy.
I see only cops are getting hurt.
Wow, that's real. Unreal. That's crazy.
And why would somebody tweet that out? I don't know. Yeah, this is barricaded shooter still continuing to fire.
No way.
Okay, yeah. It's pretty sad. So pray for the officers, pray for their families.
Pray for that whole city, though,
Yeah.
because I mean, for this to be happening in Philly. I mean, I get it. Philly's kind of notorious for having gang violence and things like that, but this is national news, and they're going to be drugged through the mud of the politicizing of this from both sides. And I think that that's heartbreaking, because it's not going to ever address the issues of narcotics or violence against police officers and the fact that they lay their lives on the line every single day. None of that's going to be covered. It's all just going to become a gun debate from both sides, and I think that that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to go on. I want to talk to you guys about people who should have the right to the Second Amendment, and my mind had gone in one direction today, and thrown off by these shooters in Philadelphia. But still, there are 3 main stories I want to bring to you guys. One is funny, and it's hard to laugh with what's going on in Philadelphia, but you do have to be able to separate issues for your own sanity.
Yeah.
Otherwise, every tragedy becomes your own tragedy.
I agree.
Okay, so you have to compartmentalize issues and be led by the Holy Spirit. And this is one issue that we should all get behind right now. These pro-democracy protesters inside, and dang if I can't get these videos big. Interesting. I'm going to play this video of the Hong Kong protesters waving the American flag, but I saw this tension between mainlanders and Hong Kong protesters. You are Chinese. Why is there an American flag?
会击干嘛？这是美国的地方吗？我
不怕，我只是知道你们出去的话，别人说你们是中国人，不会说你们是美国人。
嗱，沒有說。冷靜啲，你有沒有中國國旗？你埋黃色區 ，OK。
Interesting. There's an American flag because American flag represents democracy.
Well, and one of the pictures that I chose for our thumbnail was the Hong Kongese people having the American flag and then a flag in front that said asking President Trump for help. You know, where else are you going to get help?
Okay.
Who else is going to help them?
So this is the video that has been seen around the world almost 3 million times on this one video. I think everybody's seen it.
Bright stars through the perilous fight. Oh, the ramparts
Stop it.
we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the
This is so great.
red glare,
Oh my gosh.
the bombs bursting in
I'm gonna cry.
Goosebumps.
gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say the stars sprinkle, then I yet wave.
It's really good.
Oh, the land of the free and the home
They're really
of
singing it.
the brave.
All right, so perhaps you haven't been watching our show, and perhaps you don't tune into the news, and perhaps even the mainstream media isn't giving you a proper understanding of what's going on in Hong Kong.
Okay, so a little bit of history in case you did not know. In case you did not know, Hong Kong was a British territory, and it had this huge ceremony in 1997, and it was handed over to the Chinese with the stipulation that Hong Kong would remain semi-autonomous. And so they
Democratic.
still speak ish. They do not have universal suffrage. They cannot all vote, okay? And this all tensions have been boiling over since 1997.
Right.
And they've been waiting for a moment. And their moment came when a bill was going to be proposed by the Hong Kong government that any criminals could be extradited from Hong Kong to China. That would include political dissidents. That would include religious-minded people. That would include anybody the Chinese government deemed to be
Exactly.
A ward of the state or a criminal in some way. And so pretty much all of Hong Kong rushed to the streets, and they have for weeks. And they have put their foot down, and they have decided in a way that has sparked worldwide recognition and solidarity. They are standing up against the Chinese government and saying, no, they have free internet there. So they know everything that's going on. They do not have free internet in China. Okay,
Right.
So their Chinese brothers and sisters in mainland China are under a communist dictatorship of incredible censorship. And they see that. They know their brothers and sisters cannot, they can't travel. They're under the social credit score where millions and millions of people cannot travel, cannot take a train, cannot take an airplane because they are deemed to not be socially correct. And that could be not paying your bills on time. That could be not picking poo up after your dog. That could be not walking your dog on a leash. And you get 12 points, and then bam, your kids may not be able to go to a private school. There are so many things. They restrict everything. They have incredible amount of facial recognition. They can check you. They can find you jaywalking.
Well, not just facial recognition. I mean, imagine every time you're on your cell phone,
they have
your email.
apps. They're following your cell phone.
They're listening to everything that you're saying, everything that you message.
1 million ethnic Uyghurs who are they kind of look Mongolian. A little bit of Arabic, like an Arabic Chinese, and they are Muslim. 1.5 million of them are estimated are in these re-education camps. They are beating women. A story just came out 2 days ago. They are forcibly sterilizing women. They stuck their arm through a bar, and they injected them with something, and suddenly they had no periods anymore. So they're forcibly sterilizing these women. They are ethnically cleansing them. And everybody wants to get on Amazon and get the cheapest iPhone or electronic products or knockoff products from China.
Right. Or they're upset about Trump's tariffs.
Yeah.
In China.
Well, Trump caved on the tariffs. And I think that in this moment that he did that for the Hong Kongese right now in their protests to take off a little pressure there because he sees that things are boiling over. Now, in addition to singing the national anthem, they have not locked themselves up. They've kind of holed up inside of the airport here, in the Hong Kong airport, and they're singing Les Mis here.
Stop it right now. Of Les Mis or the Hollywood movie, that may not move you the way that it moves the rest of us that have. This is killing me.
The world is watching. Donald Trump has tweeted out that he is watching.
Didn't he say to be safe?
He said he tweeted out, "Be calm and be safe." So Chinese are looking to intervene here. So we'll see what's going to happen. Chinese intervention in Hong Kong would be a catastrophe. This from Chris Patton from the London Routers on Tuesday cautioned that if China intervened in Hong Kong, it would be a catastrophe, and that President Xi Jinping should see the wisdom of trying to bring people together. Patton said it was counterproductive of the Chinese to warn of other methods if the protesters did not stop. That would be a catastrophe. We have the ability. If there's a Tiananmen Square, it'll be live streamed. It's over for China. It's World War III. We're done.
Yeah,
we're all done. Right? Seriously, if there's a Tiananmen Square, the whole world knows. As much as we love to trade with China, we have the Western powers. You would have everybody from Brazil to Canada. I mean, this would bring the world together, and it would bring China to its knees, knowing that China would have to give up. I mean, This is a moment for us to look at and to pray, because we could see the first in all of history peaceful revolution with no one
getting injured.
Well, people have been injured.
Well, you know what I mean, like
dying.
Dying.
Even Donald Trump tweeted out, "I hope no one dies." He literally says, "I hope no one dies. Be safe. I hope no one dies." Since President Xi has been in office, there's been a crackdown on dissidents everywhere. We do know for a fact that China is the best place to go if you need an organ, because they take dissidents, they put them in jail, and they put you on an organ harvesting list. They take you out, bam, shoot you in the head, take out your organs. This is a government that needs to be brought down, and the only way to bring it down safely without people dying is through the power of God. And what the Chinese, what the Hong Kongese are doing right now is a very powerful move. It's very powerful. It's very, very powerful.
Well, and I think that they've recognized there's okay, so we talked about this the other day, the difference between just some sort of crazy revolution where people go off half-cocked and whatever. But what's happening here, I think the reason why it's spreading, the reason why it's taking a foundation is because I feel the Spirit of God.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely,
I think
absolutely,
those
100%.
people do as well. And so if you're in Hong Kong, you can't help but catch that fire. Okay, so to be cheesy, but we kind of, I mean, when you're thinking about maybe like Hunger Games, catching that fire,
That's true.
it really is a spirit.
Yeah.
And so right does win out.
Yeah.
And the power of God does win. When you go to fight the enemy with the power of God, you win every time.
And they're not alone.
Yeah.
And the only way this can happen, see, I am not a fan of social media. I'm not a fan of cars. I'm not a fan of electricity. I'm not a fan of any of these things. But I know that these are the tools of the enemy.
Right.
And I do know that God is moving and that the ship has turned. And I'm not talking, I have been praying for these moments my whole life. And my mom has been praying for them. And it's funny because my mom would say, Leah, we're going to see the world change.
Yeah.
And
she said that our whole life.
She has said that our whole lives. And she just believed and she believed and she believed and she believed. And we're seeing the world change. What I had Michelle put in this title is Devil Exposed.
Yeah.
Okay? Because we're seeing it. I'm going to show you a picture, a painting in Epstein's apartment of Bill Clinton wearing a blue
It's on my
Monica
thumbnail.
Lewinsky dress that somebody snapped a picture of in 2012 in Epstein's apartment. It has been metadata confirmed that it was truly taken from Epstein's apartment. So why is that there? My point is that Alex Jones and people like Alex Jones, these conspiracy theorists who know these things inside and out, saying that there are elites, that they have pedophile sex trafficking rings. And
Pizzagate is real. I mean, you know, they've made fun of us forever for talking about it, but
Exactly.
it is real.
It is real. And with the Chinese government, my prayer, I have been praying for China my entire life. And I know that I have Christians, brothers and sisters who have been praying for China. And what you have here is you have the ability. Sometimes God moves and he has things set in place, okay? Because some people would say, how would it be a miracle? Or maybe it's not a miracle because Hong Kong is an autonomous region. And they could go for their freedom. And if something does switch and change, that it's just kind of like an evolutionary process, and it could have been. And so what I'm saying is that God has things set in place. So in order to get the Chinese people free, Hong Kong had to come out from British rule and be put in Chinese rule, so that it is one. So what would happen in Hong Kong would spread into China, which is what is going to happen. And the brainwashing is so strong in their Chinese brothers and sisters. They don't even know that what the Hong Kongese are fighting for, because they're under so much brainwashing. And that's what I want you to see when you think about your liberal brothers and sisters, because at the end of the day, we're all fighting the elites. We're all fighting the pedophiles. We're all fighting the bad guys. And as you saw in our beginning video, where you had the mainland Chinese telling the Hong Kongese, why are you waving an American flag? This is, you're in China now. They are brainwashed. They're the liberals. They're the left, right? They've been brainwashed since they were kids to love not Chinese people, but to love and to follow the government. And we've been meaning to do a lot of videos about China. But what God has done is he has planted these seeds inside of Hong Kong with the freedom of the West, and they have held on to Christianity more than in Great Britain. So their being free from under Great Britain and under Great Britain's protection has allowed them to flourish and grow on their own. They're standing up on their own, and that's what can bring freedom to the rest of the world. Hong Kong returned to the Chinese rule in 1997 with a guarantee that under a one country, two systems mode of government, the city would retain a high degree of autonomy, an independent judiciary, and freedoms not allowed in mainland China. Demonstrations have plunged the Chinese ruled territory into its most serious crisis in decades, presenting Chinese leader Xi with one of his biggest challenges since he came into power in 2012. Demonstrators say they are fighting the erosion of the one country, two systems arrangement. Patton said British Prime Minister Boris Johnson should ask U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton, who is in London this week, to get Washington to agree that it would be a catastrophe if China was to intervene in Hong Kong. John Bolton is a neocon warmonger, but maybe it might come in handy. I don't know. I very much hope that even after 10 weeks of this going on, the government and President Xi will see the sense in establishing a way of actually bringing people together. Hong Kong leader Carrie Lam said on Tuesday the city's recovery from protests that have swept the Asian financial hub could take a long time, and that she would be responsible for rebuilding its economy after the violence eases. Her comments followed serious developments in the growing crisis over the past week. Beijing said on Monday the protests had begun to show spouts of terrorism, and the city's airport was closed. There is a degree of frustration and anger at the government refusing to give any sensible ground at all, which probably provokes more violence. I can't believe that any rational person in Carrie Lam's position would actually argue the case against a commission of inquiry. That what's clearly needed is a process of reconciliation. It's the only way you can put a cap on this. So, let's see. Tucker Carlson did not. He is still on.
So I'm curious, just what it would take to. So I was looking up the population of Hong Kong. So they have 8 million, or almost. Okay, they have 7.5 million people. Mm-hmm. All right, I think that's enough people to have their own country, right? For them to be completely and wholly autonomous. To be, instead of the city of Hong Kong, to be the country of Hong Kong. They have enough ethnic uniqueness, I think. I think the issue is always dependency on the state. How much do they take from the government versus taxes and things that people put in? Because I think that's a reason why a lot of countries don't leave the European Union now that they're in, because they reap more benefits. Yeah. And when you have a revolution like this, sometimes you have to say, heck with the benefits. Mm-hmm. We want to be a free nation. And if we have to start from scratch, and if we have to eke out a living and, whatever, and then there's debt. I'm sure they owe a lot. Every country owes to other countries more than what they have. Yeah. So there's a lot here, but I still would like to see that happen. I would love to see Hong Kong become their own
there's a video that went viral. Protesters attack a police officer after he tackled and was beating a female democracy protester here. Oh,
I'm in front of it.
Objective there was to get the woman away. They did not beat up the protester, you could say. Hong Kong police brutality, allowing gangsters chasing up and down, beating protesters and civilians on the street. They did do that. One girl reportedly lost her eye. It was a nurse, a first responder.
Oh my gosh.
Dear tourists, we're deeply sorry about what happened yesterday. We were desperate and we made imperfect decisions. Please accept our apology. I have, the video here of...
Although you kind of have to ask yourself, why would you go to tour Hong Kong right now? Like, if you had a year-long trip planned, that's kind of understandable, but even if I did, I probably wouldn't go.
Yeah.
Just, there's too much unrest, unless they're, literally tourists trying to be a part of a revolution.
Okay, so over 1,000 Hong Kong medical staff stopped yesterday during 1 hour to protest against police brutality. The protest happens after a female medic was hit by a pellet round in the right eye during a demonstration. That is a huge demonstration, by the way.
女士更加都會睇唔到嘢，呢啲唔係我哋想見到嘅嘢。幾日發生嘅事情就係政府諗。
Imagine, if you will, your nation, whether it's the United States or the UK or Australia or wherever you are, and the entire staff of hospitals gathering together to protest the government.
Yeah.
It's so powerful what is happening there, and it's not a leftist protest. It's a populist protest. It's a we the people should have a voice protest.
So Donald Trump tweeted out about this, and he retweeted Alexandra Cross here, showing a disturbing video of the Chinese military going to the Shenzhen zone, the border along Hong Kong. Something extraordinary bad is about to happen, he says.
Oh my gosh, look at all those military vehicles. That's terrifying.
They could possibly be wanting to arrest them all.
With all those trucks,
you could put them all in there.
Absolutely.
Here the Chinese military's trucks are in the. This is a sports building in Shenzhen.
Okay, that's really scary. Because those trucks could only be used for one purpose, and that's to house people. Because, okay, maybe you have some military-style tanks or whatever
designed
here.
to carry people away.
But these there's no other purpose for those.
To carry those people away. A total of 25 kilometers separates Shenzhen and Hong Kong, where the Chinese army is setting in motion ground military operations. The military column entered Shenzhen this morning. It was 2 mornings ago.
真係多啊！啲軍我而家頭先拍到
But
100
here's the
號啦，
thing, Leah.
而家知唔知
You're
啊？
like,
今
and
日
the
最起
people
碼
in
而
chat
家
are
頭
saying
先
it
拍到
as
100
well,
號軍
never
出嚟。
again with Tiananmen Square, but most of these people are peaceful.
Yeah.
And if they get arrested, they're going to file into those trucks. That's what they're going to do. It's not going to, and so you're like, oh, the whole world would descend and everybody would say, oh, China. Well, not if these people just peacefully get into those trucks, which they will do.
Right.
Which is really sad. But I mean, maybe they'll get released at some point but I don't know. This is China we're talking about. Once these people get arrested, that could be the end for them.
Yeah, I'm going to play this video here.
They become organ donors.
Even when facing an overwhelming pressure and intimidation from China, people of Hong Kong increasingly shows single solidarity with supporting the demonstrators, the people of Hong Kong.
走出嚟行下嘅啫，我就師奶嚟嘅。
They can read those.
可唔可以講下，即係啲包係咪市民喺邊間麥當勞買完？
喺麥當勞呢度，喺南昌嗰度麥當勞。
係咪支持啲抗
These
爭
are for the
者？
protesters.
Supplying Hong Kong protests.
This is the 10th straight week of demonstrations in Hong Kong. Protesters have said they won't stop unless the government addresses their demands. But as the protests have dragged on, so have the cost of coming out to the streets every week.
2 weeks ago, I didn't have any gears, but I want to be there and come back against the police. So I got one from my friends. Some people really for the especially the youngsters, they are not rich enough. They do not have enough money to buy materials.
Food, travel, equipment, it all starts to add up. And as the protests got more confrontational, the gear required gets more expensive. A full-face respirator like this costs over $100.
Wow.
And that doesn't include the filters. And self-organized donation systems have sprung up in protest, offering masks, gloves, and other supplies.
This is literally happening right now in Hong Kong, guys.
我哋幫手咧就分緊物資嘅，咁樣就我哋本身嚟呢度就唔係一嚟就派物資嘅，但係咧就有啲即係
We didn't come here with the supplies. People bought them and put them in one place. So we took it upon ourselves to set up a supply station. He says, can you show me what you've got? He says, we've got helmets, water. These are masks and respirators. How do people know where to put their donations? The supplies come as long as someone sets up a spot for them. Some older people bought supplies and gave them to us. We're young, so we do the heavy lifting and set up the supply stations. Some Chinese officials said there is foreign support behind the mobilization. What's your view on that? We've come out here in the streets many times, but we haven't seen any foreign forces. Officials who point their fingers at foreigners are underestimating the people's collective intelligence. Here's one set. There's more.
Many supporters of the protest
here's
don't want to
these
be on the
speaking
front
English. There you
line, but they still want to voice their support with their wallets. There are stories of strangers picking up tabs for protesters eating at restaurants, and there are supply stations like this, stocked with gas masks, gloves, and water, and other supplies. 你哋係咪即係自己組織，然後去買啲物資嚟？
Do they donate them on their own? Yes.
又冇能力話可以再做啲咩
I don't have the ability to do much, so we do our best to prevent the
盡量
students
幫
from
啲學
getting
生
hurt.
其實我哋個目的都係令到佢哋受保護、受傷害嘅。
不過見到啲唔
We
公平
see
嘅嘢
inequalities.
出嚟幫
So we want to
或者
help the
年輕
young
人啦，
people.
將來嘅支柱，
They're the
即係
pillars of
幫
the
佢哋
future.
幫佢哋。
These guys look young to me already.
即係而家對我呢個
My
睇
view
法
of them
啫
has
即係
completely
好唔
changed.
樂觀咯。因為香港細
The
路
Hong
仔
Kong
不嬲
kids
即係
we
喺
knew
我
were
哋嘅心目
spoiled.
中俾人錫慣噶嘛。但係你而家睇到佢
But
哋
now
咁
they've
樣都
come
可以
out to
企
the
出嚟咧，
streets.
其實真係唔到我哋唔支持佢
We
哋。
can't not support
所以
them.
其實
They did more for the adults than we did for them. It's so powerful. It's really, really
These days, Hong
powerful.
Kong's protests, you see a lot of these donation stations. There are free clothing for people to change into if they wanted to, and there are people giving out free transit passes for people who want to travel home without using digital payment and leaving any footprint.
Wow.
可唔可以解釋下呢度
You're holding
嘅
these subway
係
passes.
邊度嚟㗎
Can you
然後
explain
你
where they come from and how they work? Many of these passes were funded by the people.
金錢來好多都係好多熱心市民捐助翻嚟嘅，一啲資金我哋
They give us money to help buy the tickets. Our funding comes from everyday people.
可唔可以講啲唔同嘅
How do
飛
the
去邊
tickets
度
work?
然後點樣
Where are their
因為
destinations?
佢唔同嘅地
There is
方
different
嘅
for
價
different
錢唔同，
destinations.
咁我哋都買定晒去唔同嘅地方。
I'm Alan Wong. For more stories from Hong Kong.
Well,
and
Alan,
beyond,
that is
subscribe
excellent
to the
coverage.
newsletter,
Thank you for doing
follow us
that.
on Facebook, Twitter, and
Fantastic.
Instagram.
To really get down into the people and talk to them and find out. It's so heartwarming to hear
Right.
those. They thought they were older gentlemen. To me, they looked
Right.
young. But to talk
Yeah.
about, to hear them talking about these kids and how, we thought they were spoiled, and you know what? Maybe they were. But times like this actually alter the character of someone for the better. And I think that we're seeing that in Hong Kong. They recognize that they are fighting for something.
So we have the doctors and nurses offering free medical help to the protesters on the front lines here. There will be police cameras when you get off the train. Remember to put on your masks. Thank you. Go Hong Kongers. Go Hong Kongers.
Okay, so we're heading to the first aid post.
First aid post.
We'll just make a bit of preparation and then we will go to the park nearby.
My name is Julius, and we are a group of first aid volunteers. Today we've been here to see where we can help. So many different people working as volunteer first aiders. Some of them nurses, some of them doctors.
So you can see that there are a lot of people.
We need to meet them again, okay?
I saw another group over there. Okay, I just got lost. There's a group over there. Okay. I can't hear you behind the market.
And we want to know which group of people do not want to take the risk. Those who can't afford the risk go back to the metro station to support others.
So this is a well orchestrated thing. I kind of just wanted to show that to you. So
He's talking about being on the front lines of possibly getting injured and hurt and beaten by the police.
Or killed. Yeah.
I mean, or arrested or what have you.
Yeah.
It's such a huge thing. Such a huge thing. I have high hopes for this demonstration. Or this, revolution, whatever you want to call it. I really believe, because the world is watching, that China is going to have to do the right thing.
So here Donald Trump tweeted out this man, so he retweeted out Donald Trump. So I think that he's well aware of what's happening.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We're gonna keep you we'll keep you monitored.
We'll keep you
we'll monitor
abreast
the situation.
of the monitoring.
Thank you. We'll keep
We're not monitoring you, I promise. As you watch our stream, we're not monitoring you. Unless you're in the
Pelosi
chat.
Moment. a Nancy Pelosi moment. How close are we to Tiananmen Square? Let's see. The Chinese Communist Party prefers violence to perceived weakness. In late October 1956, students and workers massed in the Hungarian capital Budapest to protest Soviet rule and demanded the end of Moscow's political domination. Largely leaderless at first, the protests were galvanized by increasingly aggressive police action to become a full-blown revolt against a government widely viewed as a Soviet puppet. By the end of the month, with a new rebel government in place, it seemed that Moscow might be willing to negotiate the withdrawal of Soviet troops. After all, then First Secretary Nikita Khrushchev had denounced Joseph Stalin several months earlier. This optimism was short-lived. At 4:15 a.m., November 4th, Soviet tanks entered the city, leaving thousands of Hungarian citizens dead and eliciting widespread international condemnation, though no action was taken. Yet the crackdown had succeeded in its immediate objective, forestalling Moscow's loss of political control, at least until the collapse of the Soviet Union 3.5 decades later. The Chinese Communist Party has a long memory, and it is increasingly obsessed with the fate of the Soviets. As usual, we don't know what I don't know if you guys know this. Xi Jinping. I don't know if you guys know this, but Chairman Mao had a domination view over Soviet Russia, and he mocked Russia. He believed that he could do communism better.
Right.
And when he met with Russian leaders, he had disdain for them. He didn't think that they were doing communism right. And the communist China has always looked down in a haughty, elitist way on Russia. In a very kind of evil, I read a book on the rise of Chairman Mao and how his disdain for Russia, and they didn't do communism right, and they weren't doing it right, and he was going to do it right. So we don't know what Xi Jinping and other leaders were discussing at the recently concluded yearly meeting in the seaside resort of Bitchute. But it seems likely that the memory of 1956 loomed over discussion of unrest in Hong Kong, arguably the most significant political challenge outside of its own ranks the CCP has faced since Xi assumed power in 2012. Unfortunately for the protesters, Beijing's calculus in 2019 is likely the same as Moscow's 70 years earlier. When backed into a corner, violence is preferable to perceived political weakness or territorial dissolution. But the world is not what it was in 1956. We do not have social media on the ground. People all over the world were not watching Budapest in 1956. There was a global elite already formed at that time who wanted to keep things in check and who didn't want to deal with communist China.
Exactly.
Or communist Russia at the time. So then there's a difference now. I think that I know social media, one voice. I mean, and we have the voice and we have the ear of the President of the United States.
Mm-hmm. And they do
and
too.
If the President of the United States does something, says something, the world will follow.
Right.
So this is not going to be a Budapest. This is going to change. Something is going to break. The communist China, as we were talking about, Michelle, tell them a little bit more about how China's tentacles reach far and wide globally and into our own economy.
Well, so when you look at into our own economy, they own everything. I mean, it's when we talk about slavery, modern day slavery, we are, all these items that we have, electronics, everybody says, oh, I love electronics. I love, modern technology. Well, it all comes from China. It comes from the backs of Chinese.
Printing off these dollars have come to bite us in the rear end.
So there's that aspect of it. But quite literally, they are buying land in the United States. They are taking over. And more than that, they're going for your mind in Hollywood.
And in colleges.
Exactly.
They have a whole system set out.
Right.
They send these kids over here. Now, a lot of them switch and turn. We met a young man, Chi, became a Christian, and he was studying with Chinese in...
but when you look at communism...
It's a mental game.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was going to say. Their biggest weapon, actually, is psychological warfare.
Yeah.
And they have been implementing that in America, and you don't even see it. You have no idea that it's happening. So we talk to, we have friends, and maybe you do too, actually, in certain industries of technology, and they will tell us, listen, the Chinese have been stealing our tech forever. Not only are they stealing it, but they're using it against us. Okay? So, I mean, if you think for 1 second that it's not possible for the Chinese to implement into your device spyware and things where they can listen in and they can know what's going on, I mean, you'd be a fool not to understand the amount of influence that the Chinese have in America and around the world. It's really, really, really scary what's happening.
So the Chinese military and the Chinese Communist Party does see international blowback as manageable if costly, but the deterioration of their political authority cannot be challenged. What began with targeted protests over a proposed extradition bill that would potentially subject Hong Kong residents to the CCP's domestic legal controls soon morphed into a full-blown movement after an overly aggressive and inept response by the local police and refusal of the Hong Kong chief executive, Carrie Lam, to fully withdraw the bill. It's only been shelved. As an unintended consequence of Beijing's successful neutering of Hong Kong's umbrella movement in 2014, a sense of desperation and urgency now imbues this largely leaderless and grassroots movement. Hong Kong International Airport, one of the world's busiest transport hubs, has been shuttered in response to sit-ins, and the language is escalating on both sides. While the violence has been largely on the side of the police, this Monday saw protesters attack and beat suspected infiltrators. Just this week, Lam warned that the protesters were pushing Hong Kong into an abyss. Sorry for the inconvenience, said one protester sign, but we're fighting for survival. For the CCP leadership, especially Xi, the stakes could not be higher. Not only does this unrest come at a time of mounting challenges, including the ongoing trade war with the United States and the slowing economy, but demands by protesters, such as for increased sovereignty from Beijing and more democratic participation, cut directly into the CCP's core principle of unchallenged territorial integrity and its argument that it alone speaks for the Chinese people. It's thus unsurprising that Beijing has ramped up its rhetoric against the protesters in the past week, ominously likening them to terrorists and particularly blaming the hostile foreign forces and the black hands of organizing other governments. Since the mid-1950s, fears of outside meddling, legitimate or intentionally stoked, have been a core part of the party's political discourse. Mao Zedong became convinced the United States was intent on regime change in Beijing after Secretary of State John Foster Dulles spoke of a peaceful evolution strategy. Later, hostile forces became the party's catch-all explanation for domestic content and unrest. They are saying that, basically saying, oh, the Americans are infiltrating us. And then we have more worrying then are the rumors that Beijing is considering the use of its paramilitary forces to quell the protests, which gained credence when Chinese state media reported on forces assembling in the southern city of Shenzhen and included armed personnel, and then President Trump seemingly confirming the rumors only added to such fears. And then now we have the question now hanging over Hong Kong is whether Beijing is prepared to crush the protests with direct force. So we're gonna.
They obviously have all those vehicles lined up. Those big trucks.
My gut tells me that they are not prepared.
I think it's a show of force. I think that they're trying to threaten, right?
I don't think they know what they're gonna do.
Right.
I think that they're waiting.
It's a good strategy. Send in the vehicles, see if it scares them off.
And they're waiting for a moment. Because if the protesters become violent, they'll say they're terrorists. We have to go arrest them all.
Right.
So they're waiting, and they may. I wouldn't put it past them to put in infiltrators. The Hong Kongers believe that they're infiltrators.
Right.
Infiltrators who would stoke violence.
Right.
And then cause panic, cause unrest. That would be my move if I were an evil dictator.
Yeah.
I would put people in there. I would cause international. You need international force on your side, and if it looks like they're terrorists, if it looks like the Hong Kong protesters are turning extremely violent, that's the only move that they have, and then you could arrest everyone.
Right.
I hope that doesn't happen. But
so,
we'll
as we segue to your other segments, let's take a moment, and I just want you guys to follow me to our Twitter page here as we look at the updates for what's happening in Philadelphia. I have to tell you, this tweet really bothered me. This lady says, Senate said a good guy with a gun stops a bad stops bad guys with guns. 6 officers have already been shot by an active shooter in Philadelphia. When will we start protecting people and not with guns? So, Miss Black Elegance, just exactly how do you stop a bad guy with guns if you don't use guns? I mean, do you bomb them? I mean, what is the solution there? I don't understand. This tweet makes no sense and shows a massive amount of ignorance. Let's see. This also bothered me. This is the 19th mass shooting in the United States since the 1st of August, 15 days ago. In total, 128 people have been injured in those mass shootings.
A mass shooting.
This is not a mass shooting.
A mass shooting is somebody goes into an area to shoot a bunch of people. These are crooks and criminals trying to fight off the police, trying to arrest them.
Right. Leah, I don't know where you normally get if you click on this latest and scroll through it, because like the latest shows like everybody's.
Yeah, I usually do top.
Because that's what I did, because the latest just gives you a bunch of craziness. Yeah. I like what this lady says. So black women, while you're spewing fake racist rhetoric about President Trump, another one of your babies is on a murdering spree again. So she did just say that. Yes. So that's the latest. I'm sure there is more.
Kamala Harris rushes to politicize it before we don't have all the facts.
Of course she does.
Let's see. Breaking update. Stun, concussion, grenade. Just believe used to hopefully knock down shooter. And
so they did do something without a gun.
To get in and neutralize shooter and free officers who've been pinned down upstairs in the home. Attorney on scene as federal agents assist.
Wow. So we now can stop bad guys with guns as long as we're using concussion grenades. So the other girl that tweeted about stopping bad guys without guns.
Let's see. Authorities are trying to communicate with the shooter.
Okay, so first they send them a concussion grenade, and now they're trying to communicate.
It's ongoing. So it's ongoing. All right.
Still going on.
You're not ready for this. All right. So this is our Epstein update, which we're going to do.
We haven't done anything on Epstein since he committed suicide.
Okay, so we haven't even done a show. Jeffrey Epstein, Saturday. This is Saturday. We woke up to a tweet. I woke up, Michelle tells me, hey, you know what? Epstein's dead. And then, of course, Clinton body count is trending. We talked a little bit, a tad on Sunday, our Sunday show. Well, all these crazy things came out. Like, he was on, I'll just kind of break it down for you guys. You probably already know all this. These are facts.
Some people only get their news from the Resistance chicks.
These are facts. So 2 weeks ago, Jeffrey Epstein was found with marks on his neck. He said he was attacked. They treated it as a suicide attempt. I don't know why you would treat it as a suicide attempt if he was attacked. He was put on suicide watch. When you're put on suicide watch,
you have a CCTV camera.
Supposedly, but that facility, now it's coming out, it has no cameras inside any of the cells. Even a suicide watch cell.
But then why was it coming out that said that the camera footage got cut?
There are none inside the cell, but there are cameras in the common areas and in the area in general. There are no cameras on the cells either. Now, people in other
how is it called suicide watch if you're not watching?
Well, supposedly a guard is supposed to go and check on you between 15 and 30 minutes. Some police officers said that when it came to like a suicide watch or watching a cartel officer, they literally had to sit and just stare into their room in 4-hour shifts. You know what I mean?
And so one of the things that you're going to get to is coming out about one of these guards was like a stand-in.
Well, one was not a properly trained guard.
Right.
They're supposedly working all kinds of overtime. We're going to get to that in a minute. But we're going to get to more of it. Stay tuned. I'm keeping you hanging. Get it?
Oh my! Hang on, though. So if they didn't hear how he got hung, like he hung himself.
I know. I was gonna go to that later.
All right.
Commercial break.
Commercial break.
All right. So Epstein had portrait of Bill Clinton wearing Monica Lewinsky blue dress in Oval Office inside his Manhattan mansion.
I'm going to pull up a better picture of that for them to see while you're reading.
Jeffrey Epstein had a portrait of Bill Clinton wearing Monica Lewinsky's infamous blue dress while lounging in a chair in the Oval Office. This is so creepy. It's so weird. What in the world? Lewinsky was a very young White House intern in her early 20s in the mid-1990s when then-President Bill Clinton, who was 50 years old, began to prey on her and use his position of power to carry out a years-long affair with her. During one of their tours, Monica Lewinsky's blue dress became stained with Bill Clinton's stuff and was lit. That picture there. The Daily Mail exclusively obtained the photo of the portrait from a source who also said she spotted a Hispanic girl who appeared to be about 14 years old waiting to meet with Epstein.
Nice.
The painting was secretly snapped inside the pedophile's lavish $56 million home. Now, the Wall Street Journal and everybody has articles. Nobody knows where his money comes from. It's very secret. He's supposedly had between...
I want to see tax returns.
Oh my gosh.
I want to see his tax returns.
Exactly. Where's his tax returns? Supposedly only had between 4 and 10 clients. How are you making millions of dollars between 4 and 10 clients? That's a hedge manager.
Fund.
4 years after Epstein completed his...
Head funged.
Head fund.
Hedge
fund.
Fund.
That's what happens when I speak too quick and my brain doesn't match up.
Your
with my
head
mouth.
funged.
It's okay. I really fudged that one up. Funged. Epstein completed his sweetheart deal for prosecution of a minor in 7 years before he was accused of running a sex trafficking ring of underage girls. The source, who asked to remain anonymous, was visiting Epstein to present a business proposal. An encounter with the pervert, which included spotting a girl who seemed to be 14 waiting to see the financier. The woman said she was shocked to catch sight of the portrait through an open door as she walked through the ornate home with her business partner. It was absolutely Bill Clinton. It was shocking. It was definitely a painting of him. It was very provocative, a sexual picture. He was wearing heels, a blue dress, and his hand was in a weird position. The media constantly ties Epstein to President Trump. However, he was close to Bill Clinton. I don't hear any Trump portraits. If you saw a Trump portrait, do you know what the media would do? Okay. But Bill Clinton is in the Monica Lewinsky dress, in the Oval Office, in red heels, in a portrait in his perv's home. Come on, they were close. Why would you do that?
Right.
What is up? Was he having some sort of... Here's the thing. I do know this about Epstein. From the stories I've read, all over his house are nude paintings of women. Just nude paintings all over the house. Everywhere where the girls were giving massages, they said they looked up. There's nude women, nude paintings everywhere. And a lot of them looked like prepubescent girls. Small. Not all of them were women. A lot of them were girls, small. And these are what these girls are telling you later.
Right,
and they're like, what is going on?
Right.
And one girl said, Epstein said, you look like the girl in the picture. You're very young.
That's creepy.
So obviously Epstein thought that this was a provocative photo that he enjoyed. There's a presidential seal you can see on the floor here. So the question is, was this a portrait that he sent for?
I know, that is a very good question.
In the Oval Office, or was it commissioned? What is that? Is the blue dress? That is Monica's blue dress. I mean, with the
I don't
heels,
think that he would need to sit for a portrait like that. It would be very easy to paint that without him having.
But what if
for
he
it,
did?
Though. But what if he did?
Yeah. What if he did? Okay, so we're gonna go to a few of these things. So supposedly, I spent all weekend with everyone telling me how you can't hang yourself in these prisons, how that the bed sheets, there's not a thing in there that will allow a prisoner in any of these cells to hang themselves.
Now, is this the same prison where you were talking about the sheets themselves are meant to...
Well, they say that on Suicide Watch you have very thin sheets, but even in these prisons you have very thin sheets that you cannot hang yourself.
Right.
That is what all the prisoners coming out are saying. You can't hang yourself with these sheets. They're not going to hold your weight. The guy was over 200 pounds, and supposedly he was found on his knees with a sheet tied to an upper bunk of a bunk bed, and he supposedly leaned forward. Now, here's the thing. When in all the horrible movies and hangings and things like that, what happens is even though somebody wants to kill themselves by hanging, when you start to asphyxiate, you start to fight. You're not going to, unless somebody holds you down, you're not going to get on your knees and lean forward and asphyxiate yourself. I don't care how crazy you are. I don't care how badly you want. I don't believe it's ever been done. I don't think that you can physically possible.
Yeah.
Because you're going to gag. The reason people drop the floor out from under them or they swing is because so you can't fight back. If you can just stand up, nobody is going to kill themselves that way.
Your body literally won't. I don't care how insane you are. Your body is not going to let you do it.
It can't be hanging. They couldn't do poisoning. They couldn't do any other way. They couldn't do gunshot. Obviously, all of that would look suspicious. So it had to be hanging, but there's nowhere to hang yourself.
Yeah.
He's not a midget to hang himself from a bunk bed, right? He's not a 4-year-old, right? You know what I'm saying? So they put him on his knees, and this is what somebody had to do. Somebody had to push him and hold him there.
If he's even dead to start with. And he's, Mike Adams came out with a conspiracy theory that he's in protective custody and it's all going to come out. I don't believe that at all. But I mean, he could be off in some island somewhere.
There's no way to know. You want to know why? God will have to tell us, because get this. The latest blockbuster in this craziness, and William Barr says that he's going to look into it. Everybody's looking into this. Why the FBI just stormed the pedophile island, and everybody wants to know, when you were searching everything else, why didn't you storm it before? Why now? Are you there for a cleanup job? Are you there to actually get stuff? Because everything is already moved by his lawyers and his friends.
Exactly.
Why didn't the FBI? I mean, this goes to show you that our FBI is totally corrupt, and they're all connected. Now,
they're not even just inadequate or inept. They are on the side of wrong, helping cover these things up.
So on Tucker Carlson last night, and from what I understand, somebody said that he was kicked off, suspended for 2 weeks for saying that white supremacy is a hoax in this country. We don't know if he's just fishing or not, but anyways, he had his Mark Stein friend on last night, and he had on his feminist center-right friend on there, and she said, I forget her name right off the top of my head, the dark-haired lady. Mm-hmm. She said, all the pieces were in place to protect the elite. And when Trump was elected, the reason, and she said this, and I would bring it up, but you can't really bring him up on YouTube the day after. You have to catch him that day. Well, copyright, they're catching us now, watching them. Because honestly, I think Fox News is catching us watching it, but before Tucker Carlson became famous, you could watch anything on Fox News for years by the date. Right. And now, I think they don't want you to watch Tucker Carlson anymore because they don't. And
Fox News itself does not want you watching Tucker Carlson.
Right. Oh, yeah. No. The people at the top.
I think he's going to go the way of Glenn Beck.
We'll see. I think that Tucker's smarter than Glenn Beck. Way smarter. I think he knows the game better than Glenn.
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to corrupt himself to, become a,
No, but he knows better. He knows how to play the game to stay on air.
Okay. I hope so.
What I was going to say was there's a system that keeps these pedophiles and all these elite people in, if you have enough money, and they protect them. And then Donald Trump came in, and he's not part of their gang. He's not part of their club. And everybody kept saying, so crazy, even the Q people. Donald Trump's going to come in. He's going to break up the sex trafficking and the pedophile rings. And people in the media and people, the neocons on the right and the Ben Shapiro's blah, 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 Trump's not going to do that, whatever, blah, 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 blah. I was like, no, seriously, Trump knows these people. He knows Epstein. He knows stuff he's not going to tell us, okay? Trump knows these people, and that was one of the reasons why he ran, because he could see Clinton and all these people are highly connected, and nobody's held accountable for anything.
Right. Okay?
And so what you're seeing is, she said, it's just the tip of the Epstein is the tip of the iceberg, but he is a huge tip of an iceberg, a huge tip.
Right.
And that's why they had to kill him. That's the official narrative that certain parties are trying to push. The New York Times reported on Wednesday that the 2 guards tasked with monitoring Epstein's unit were asleep.
What?
Asleep. You're supposed to. Here's the highest profile prisoner in the world right now, besides El Chapo. Okay? Especially in America's prisons. Jeffrey Epstein had dirt on everybody. He had dirt on Prince Andrew. There's pictures of Prince Andrew with young girls. Okay? This goes to the royal family. Okay? Do you guys know? This is huge. There's so many rich and powerful people are named in here. Named in the suit. Now, from what I understand, William Barr has said that The victims will get justice. They're going to continue this audit. I think that William Barr is upstanding, and he's just as upset. We were all upset. We were all so angry because we wanted to see one of them go to trial.
Right.
We don't want them dead, and that's what people understand. We don't want them dead. We want justice. Justice is you go to trial and the truth comes out, and you serve the rest of your life in prison, tormented for the rest of your days. Suicide or death by hanging or killing is
everybody
the easy
knows
way
that.
out.
I mean, everybody knows that these girls deserve justice, and that Epstein being suicided does not give them justice. And our take, obviously, is that he was murdered. He was killed. Somebody was asking if Alex Jones had said anything about the Epstein suicide.
Oh, yeah, you can watch his. He's talking about it every day.
If you can't, he says, I miss him not being on YouTube. If you're not able to find him on YouTube.
Find him on Bitchute.
And you can just find him on Infowars.com.
On live, but I can't find retroactively. It's hard to find him. You have to catch him live.
Right.
Go to Bitchute and look under Ron Gibson. He breaks up every show into the 1 hour pieces. That's what I watch.
Which is a lot of work.
It is.
Patriot Gallery does that for us.
So, these are the patsies, by the way. The Fall Guys. Seriously, 2 guards falling asleep unless somebody put Ambiens in their drinks and makes it a horrible cocktail of 20 doses of melatonin or something where you just can't. No, what they did, it Dramamine. Dramamine them up so they couldn't keep their eyes open.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They put if they did fall asleep, they were put to sleep. No, 2 guards don't ever fall asleep together.
Oh my gosh.
That doesn't happen. I don't care how much overtime that people are putting in. This is all a joke.
And the fact that they think that we as the American people and the world are going to buy this. Nobody is
this
buying
was the highest profile prisoner. We were supposed to check him on every 30 minutes, but we didn't check on him for 3 hours because we both fell asleep. Both of them fell asleep.
And he hung himself.
I got a bridge to sell you. It's mine. Just $2 million. I got a bridge to sell you. Just sign on the dotted line. The 2 staff members in the special housing unit where Mr. Epstein was held, 9 South, falsely recorded in a log, and they supposedly covered it up. Falsely recorded in a log that they had checked on the financier who was facing sex trafficking charges every 30 minutes, as was required. Such false entries in official law,
unless they were bought off, right? Okay, so that's an option as well.
In fact, the 2 people guarding Mr. Epstein had been asleep for some or all of the 3 hours. The official said, liars. They're all.
But
lying.
Even them being bought off to not check on him, Epstein still didn't kill himself. There were screams heard.
Right.
Okay. Somebody leaked that out on 4chan or 8chan or something. There were screams heard.
And before this news hit 4chan, the ABC who broke the story, it was actually out 30 minutes before or something. 40 minutes before on 4chan with all the correct details. So somebody with inside knowledge knew about it. Let's see. One of the staff members who was working to guard Epstein that night was a former corrections officer who had recently taken a desk job inside the prison. Recently as when
I love
Epstein
how when these
was
things
transferred.
happen,
This
it's
is like a
always
movie.
like a recently.
Haven't you ever seen the movies where they put their guy in there?
And I'll tell you, speaking of the movies, do you know how many times when I was, I don't know, from the time I was a kid through before we started doing Resistance Chicks, we'd watch these movies and I would go, how is it this is always in the movies, but it never happens in real life?
So Sylvester Stallone's prison movies
It totally
lately.
happens in real life. This is really happening in real life. But it's so crazy.
Wait. Are you ready?
I'm not ready.
Okay, so a former corrections officer who had recently taken a desk job inside the prison, get this, had recently volunteered to cover some of the shifts as a corrections officer once again for the extra overtime pay. The second officer, a woman who was assigned to that wing, had been forced to work overtime because of staffing shortages. So I'm guessing that this new guy put them...
The new
guy and then a woman. What I'm guessing, this is my own conjecture, this woman was forced to work overtime. I'm guessing the new guy put the put this woman to sleep, and she didn't know that he wasn't asleep too. So he says, I fell asleep too.
But why didn't, like, so what kind of sleeping pill, like, you would think she would come back and be like, dude, I shouldn't have fallen asleep. There's no reason for me to have fallen asleep. I was drugged.
They got stuff.
They got stuff to make you think you literally just randomly fell asleep?
Yeah, they got stuff.
What if you've never had a history of falling asleep on the job?
Seriously, did you see Hillary Clinton during the debate?
All right, so Jennifer Stir on Facebook Live says it's exactly what I told someone today. They drugged up those guards.
I think they only drugged. I think obviously the one drugged up the girl.
Okay,
and
that's a good theory.
Okay, all right. Speaking of crazy conspiracy theories, it's not a conspiracy theory if it's the truth.
And I'm really hoping that they don't take us off of YouTube again for covering Project Veritas, exposing what's happening in Google, because YouTube is owned by Google.
Google Insider. People have been waiting for this Google Snowden moment. He has...
When you sat down...
he has a 20-minute video that you want to see on Project Veritas. I'm going to play you 1 or 2 clips here.
With me last time on the story that we released on June 24th. You were disguised. You were in the shadows. Right now, there's no disguise.
I felt that our entire election system was going to be compromised forever by this company that told the American public that it was not going to do any evil. This is the best thing that I can do in the situation that I'm currently at. And the thing is that the American public needs to understand what's happening. I'm going to, publish this information so that other people can see the system that Google has built in order to control the entire information landscape. This is something that once people see, it's going to bring, it doesn't matter whether you're left or whether you're right. When you see this, both sides are going to agree that this is wrong.
Exactly.
So my message to those that are on the fence is, I've released the documents. They can go and they can see everything that Google is doing. And then they can see the scale of it. Because I think that there's a lot of engineers that have a hint that things are wrong, but they don't understand the colossal scale that it's at. And so for those people, I say, look at the documents. Like take the pulse of Americans, see what's happening. And come and tell the world, what you already know to be true. And I know that people have been waiting for, this Google Snowden moment where somebody comes out and explains what everybody already knows to be true. And I'm hoping that those that want to do something are going to be compelled to act, and that we together can come together and defend ourselves in the case of litigation.
Okay.
They can stop like 1 or 2 of us, but they can't stop all of us.
Okay. Can I just say something? And I don't want this to be taken the wrong way, because I really like this guy. Mm-hmm. Okay. He's a good looking guy. I think it's great that we have he kind of sounds a little bit effeminate, just a little. He's got a man bun. He is in my opinion, he epitomizes what we understand to what we would label as a soy boy, right? Maybe just a little bit. And yet you see this fierceness, this righteousness rising up out of him that says, you know what? I'm seeing something. I was part of something. I bought into the whole thing. Of course, I'm putting words in his mouth, right? But in my opinion, just looking at him, if I'm judging a book by its cover, he kind of bought into the whole system. I'm going to work for Google. You wouldn't work for Google if you didn't buy into the system to start with.
He's been working for Google for 8 years, and with stock options, been making $250,000 a year.
Okay, so he has no reason to pull out from that except for this righteous indignation coming. Like, listen, this is wrong. So what I'm saying is, it's kind of like when you see somebody from the left coming out and saying censorship is wrong, we understand that that's a sound-minded liberal. That's a sound-minded leftist. So we are seeing what I think is a sound-minded man bun.
Okay, sound-minded man bun man. Very manly to come out and do this.
It was. I mean, did you see him? Like, he was very strong in what he was saying. Like, listen, somebody has to do this, and you can't stop all of us. More people are going to come out.
So here's the news blacklist site for Google. You can see a lot of the crowd are here. The Rebel Media. You can see InfoWars, Milo. The Gateway Pundit is on here. The Daily Caller is on here. There are leftist sites on there as well. Let's see. The team at Project Veritas, including James O'Keefe, have hit another home run with Google Insider providing them with 900. I think I said 750. It's 950 internal documents, and you can go and download these folders, and they will. You can see the Google whistleblower has gone public with claims of election manipulation and political bias, according to investigative journalist at Project Veritas. His name is Zachary Voorhees. And he saw something dark and nefarious going on in the company, and I realized that they were going to not only tamper with elections, but use that tampering with the elections to essentially overthrow the United States. He goes on to say they're not going to allow 2016 to happen again.
Now, you had said something really key here about before he actually did drop these documents.
Well, he said that he went to Google and there was a dead man switch, and he told Google that if they did anything to him, a dead man switch would happen, and they would all be released anyways. And so Google called the cops on him as a mental health checkup with that. So he says, I gave the documents to Project Veritas. I had been collecting the documents for over a year, and the reason why I collected these documents was because I saw something dark and nefarious, and I needed to do something about it. In June, he revealed a number of internal Google documents were leaked revealing algorithmic unfairness in search rankings. I started to open some up. You can see that where he had Project Veritas had some undercover video where they talked about the algorithm trying to be fair, the fairness doctrine of the algorithm. And I'll just explain it this way. And this is what you can read some of these documents basically summed up as this. Is it fair if a black person Googles CEOs in America and all they see are white males?
Right.
So the fairness document that is put up, you can read it, says that can be a trigger, it can be harmful, it can be hurtful when you don't see people who represent you. So Google has a fairness doctrine. So let's say the top CEOs are all white men. Well, they pepper it with black people and women and other minorities.
I want to correct what you said.
Fair.
You said, let's say somebody Googles black CEOs and get.
I said CEOs.
I think you did put, but that's what you meant to say. Regardless, you meant to say if somebody just Googles the top CEOs.
Yeah, top CEOs.
And then, all they get are, they don't get the top ones. They get the top people within their ethnicity and so on and so forth is what you're saying.
Right.
So it's a false
There's another
search result.
document called Fringe Ranking Classifier Defining Channel Quality, compiles a ranking of various news sites by their level of trustworthiness. And the sample ranking showed the most trusted news site appears to be Wall Street Journal, while the Next News Network is the least trustworthy, ranking just below Alex Jones. Breitbart News is ranked above YouTube commenter Philip DeFranco, the Huffington Post, and the Young Turks, but below RT, America, and CNN. Another document titled Fake News and Other Fringe, Trashy Recap, claims that videos on Google's platforms are rated by multiple human raters. Another internal document labeled Coffee Beans allegedly shows Google employees discussing diversity hiring practices at the firm. An internal thread of communications, including with the firm, appears to show a discussion about the document between employees, one of whom worries that the document appears to misrepresent Google's hiring practices in a way that could raise legal questions. Another internal discussion thread appears to show Google employees discussing how best to change the translation of President Trump's infamous Covfefe tweet, where he's told Project Veritas that he hopes more Google workers will come forward.
Wow. And I hope that they do too. I'm really actually optimistic about that, because if he is obviously going to be a high-ranking figure in Google, if he's making that much money, okay, not just some sort of peon, and he comes forward and his face comes forward, then other people in Google are going to go, I know that guy.
So
and they're going to come forward too.
Here you can go to the Google document dump. They have the documents in folders, and you have to download them onto your computer. And you have to install an app onto your computer. Censorship, fake news, leadership training, partisanship, everything, miscellaneous and video, psychological research, machine learning, fairness, hiring practices, and politics.
Wow.
So you can go and check that out. Let's see.
Well done on Project
Here
Veritas.
is one of these documents that I had brought up. Obviously, there's 950. Did not have a chance to peruse them all. One of them is algorithmic discrimination from an environmental psychological perspective.
Stress-inducing differential treatment.
So basically saying, based on a review of principles from environmental psychology and related literatures, we suggest the following probable effects of algorithmic discrimination. So basically saying, if you don't see your person, your guy, your ethnic group, it can hurt you. Discrimination is a stressor. And by implication, algorithmic discrimination is a stressor. Stressors have negative cognitive, emotional, and physical consequences, and algorithmic discrimination likely has similar negative effects. For example, experiencing racial discrimination can potentially damage a person's own opinions about themselves as well as their identification with the larger community. Stressors can impede concentration and problem-solving ability, and therefore algorithmic discrimination is likely to interfere with people's ability to complete online tasks. And it goes on to say that they need to redo the algorithm so not to have this. And the whole time I'm reading this, I'm like, I am experiencing this on a daily basis, on a minute-by-minute basis, because you have stressed me out.
Hang on,
because
though.
you are discriminating against me and against Alex Jones and against Mark Dice and against Breitbart and against all these people you are discriminating against, and you are causing them to be really stressed out.
So hang on. This says negative effects can make people's thinking more narrow and concrete. So people who perceive they are experiencing algorithmic discrimination may think more narrowly, which could influence their purchasing behaviors and response to advertisements or other stimuli. More restricted thinking is likely to increase the sales of more practical options at the expense of those that serve higher order needs, such as signaling status. This is insanity. They are literally trying to manipulate people.
To degraded mood and interactions with others, such as reduced altruism and increased. Well, here's the thing. All of those algorithms based on Google, where the cookies follow you, and you looked up a new Jeep top, and it suddenly follows you all over the place.
Yeah,
that's Google, honey. All right. That's Google, baby. Google puts things in front of you. Google wins on the ads.
Yeah.
So you pay money to put your business or your thing at the top, even your articles at the top. And Google's whole idea, they made a whole movie about the creepy line. They say we're going to go up to the creepy line, not cross it, is to manipulate your mind. Facebook's whole algorithm is designed to keep you on Facebook as long. And guess what? Google or Facebook has lost me because their algorithm, they shut it down.
Wow.
That Facebook was keeping me on there because there's people and we're sharing, was reading articles.
Yeah.
Now we don't go anymore. We don't go to Facebook very much anymore.
Right.
So their algorithm can be, you know.
So it says the literature suggests general principles about coping mechanisms and remediations for stress. Now it goes down to number 2 where it says when people feel that they have some control over a stressor or actually do control it, the negative implications of experiencing that stressor are reduced. Conversely, lack of control is associated with increased negative effects such as hostility, depression, and impaired problem solving.
Well,
it says stress tends to be lower when the victim has someone to blame. So they are fixing these algorithms to give people that feel like they have received an injustice someone to blame, even if that person is not to blame.
Information can mitigate stress, especially when it comes from a trusted source. Further, forewarning people of a potential threat can have an inoculation effect. Basically saying, forewarning of this to people of white supremacy, it makes them feel good. They're trying to take away people's stressors by saying white supremacy and putting it in the New York Times so that it comes from a trusted source. So this trusted source thing is why YouTube has the carousel, so that when you Google or when you YouTube something or you search on the YouTube results, your first 2 or 3 pages, we beat it on the El Paso shooter. Mm-hmm. We beat the algorithm because CNN and MSNBC didn't have any up yet.
And then the algorithm came back to bite us in the butt when they took our video down. They literally were like, oh, wait, kill switch. These people aren't supposed to be able to get through this wall. We're just going to take their video down.
So based on these principles, we suggest exploring the following promising directions for remediation of algorithmic discrimination. Number 3, provide control mechanisms. For example, provide the ability to restrict what others can learn about them, or to determine the demographic groups to which they are linked. Wow. They are manipulating all of the search results. So if you say Black Lives Matter, they're going to put up all positive articles because it could be a stressor for Black people.
Right.
Do you understand? Google said, we don't curate
Right.
top news sources, go to the top. You used to be able to Google any sort of news and you would get InfoWars, you would get Gateway Pundit, you would get Breitbart, you would get whatever had the title, the things that you were searching, the tags that you were searching, and the most looked at.
Right.
It doesn't happen anymore. So, this is just one document, which I wonder how many people can read through it. For example, if an individual's self-identity includes the fact that they are an accomplished and successful sailor, rejection for a boat loan would be particularly likely to result in a reaction.
No, that's not what the word says.
That's it.
Reactance.
Reactance. More acute stress can result in psychological condition known as reactance, a motivation to regain a freedom after it is lost. So basically saying they want to stop maybe shooters or something.
Unbelievable. This is so weird.
This is some really crazy.
And who has to take the time to write all of this?
And who can read it all?
And who has time to... Does every Google employee have to read these things? I mean...
No. I'm sure it's just a part... I mean, and who has a chance to read all of this to see what... Somebody read it all. If people do not receive information... Let's see. Types of AD related to the sources of stress in the list immediately above, for example, relate to delivery of messages about participating in counseling sessions that might help someone get along better with others, for example. And people do not receive information about these sessions because their electronic history indicated an issue with mental illness, which could mean that working with them would be particularly complex and profit margins would therefore be reduced. A mid-intensity AD-related stress would likely ensue. Basically, I believe that's talking about you don't want to have your stuff online because if you were mentally ill, you wouldn't want that out there. So this is all really, really deep and crazy.
And there's 900 of these documents.
950.
950. So this is really great news because there are going to be people that comb through this and they're going to find the gems and it's all going to come out. And one thing that you had talked about was the after the first bombshell was exploded by Project Veritas, there was a hearing. And this guy's... testimony or whatever was not testimony, but what he had said was brought into question before Google. And Google essentially said that he was wrong and that he was lying. And so he's like, listen, I'm not lying. Boom. Let me drop these docs. Let me show you. And so there's probably going to be more hearings. And I don't know if you remember when Trump had all of the people that had been censored brought to the White House and he spoke to them. He said, listen, I listen to these Google people and they tell me they sound good. Mm-hmm. They sound like they're telling the truth. And he almost said I believed them, but what you're telling me is the opposite. And they're really good at what they do, lying. And now I'm going to have to go back. And now Trump's going to have to go back again. Trump doesn't seem to publicly admit that Google has the power to alter this election. I think that Trump...
I heard him say, I can't tell you that. I can't say that.
Right.
Because in that you lose hope.
Right, exactly. I think that he does know that this is a real threat, right, and he is going to take it in hand.
Yeah, exactly.
And now he has the ammunition to do so. Trump is well versed in everything that's going on.
If people don't fall in line with their editorial agenda, then their news articles get deboosted and deranked. But for them to go under oath and to say that these blacklists don't exist, well, employees like me are able to just search through the internal search engine of the company and see that they do, and it's hypocritical at least, and it's perjury at its worst.
Which is a federal offense, and you can go to jail for.
Yeah. So here is another file appears to show ranking classifier to define channel quality. So here you've got, Wall Street Journal, ABC, PBS, and then Fox News, RT, Breitbart, Philip DeFranco, Huffington Post, Young Turks, Alex Jones. So you get they got negative, so they're not going to get any ranking. So, but Philip DeFranco must, it's just right there with Breitbart. So funny. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
It's so crazy. What that does is this is an algorithm. Mm-hmm. What I'm guessing. This is an algorithm. So if people search it, Alex Jones and Next News Network, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it. If Wall Street Journal has one, it's going to go up at the top. ABC News isn't going to go up to the top. You might get a Breitbart, but it's low. Okay.
Wow.
So yeah, Sundar Pichai told Congress that Google is not biased. We watched this Ted Cruz Google grilling Google executives there, and then I have True Pundit, I believe, did an interview. see. This is Sarah Carter here. What he did was he sent the DOJ a laptop with all of these on there. And he met with Sarah Carter several times. And several weeks prior, the insider mailed a laptop to the DOJ containing the same information. On a recent trip to Washington, D.C., the documents he turned over to the Department of Justice will provide proof that Google has been manipulating algorithms and the evidence of how it is done. I'm hoping that they have the engineers to look at it, because this is the computer tech stuff.
And it's very fascinating to me that he sent the whole laptop. There must be something to that, rather than sending like a couple of thumb drives or something, or a external hard drive.
Yeah, so all right.
I'm really excited about this, guys. Very, very excited. Now, we had talked earlier today about what it would mean to break up big tech. And we talk about Standard Oil a lot. If they just broke up big tech, I'm not sure that it would be enough. It would be a big start. But I think that we do need kind of an Internet Bill of Rights, you know, that says that people can't be discriminated based on their political beliefs or religious beliefs.
Right. Paul Joseph Watson says, yeah, it's totally normal that when you search Paul Joseph Watson YouTube channel on Google, my YouTube channel doesn't even appear on the first page of results. There's no bias at all. They literally broke their own search engine to censor me. And so who comes up? Paul Joseph Watson YouTube channel. And you search that, and you get, and the first thing is an impression of him. The second one is Paul Joseph Watson spreads fear, the truth. You know, it's like, seriously. I think there was, I had one more I was going to play.
Okay, so for an example, to prove to you how right he is about that injustice there, I went ahead and did ours, Mass Faith 3 YouTube channel. The third one down is, like, well, all of these would take you to our YouTube channel, by the way. These are different playlists. But you can definitely see YouTube channel, Mass Faith 3, even Resistance Chicks comes up.
So we're not on that list yet of being totally censored.
Right.
Of being, yeah.
So you definitely can find YouTube censors Mass Faith 3 plus Resistance Chicks on BitChute. I don't know what that is. Maybe that's us. Now I'm curious. Oh, is this one that So What did? So What did that one for us. So that shows up right there when you search for Mass Faith 3 YouTube. So if you search for Paul Joseph Watson YouTube, it should come up like that.
His YouTube channel, right. Okay, so here we have another little interview here I wanted to play with you.
Wait, you don't have your volume.
I don't have any volume. Wait just a second. So this is an interview with True Pundit, and I'm hoping that this would be time for Tucker Carlson to come out of the woods, not be fishing today.
I honestly think that his fishing trip was suggested.
Executives going and denying that they have any blacklists is just absolutely incredible. You know, we've caught you. You know, there's no reason to lie. We all know that you're lying. And, you know, as a shareholder of Google as well, like, I can see what they're doing. They're destroying the value of their company in order to pursue a social justice agenda.
When I type something into Google, I'm not getting true results, and I know that. And we use Google, and we're on Google, obviously, with a news site. And when you type something in True Pundit, it always comes up with bad stuff about us. Not even any of the stories we do. So we know it's loaded. When we were on YouTube, you could tell that our content was being hammered or kept down and things like that. and this is what you're talking about. If you have a certain political slant that's different from the folks who are working and creating the AI and creating the algorithms, you're at a massive disadvantage. And so, am I right? Yeah.
And you're trying to figure out, like, what's going on. Like, why? Like, what's the methodology that Google is using to suppress your content?
Right.
Methodology that Google uses to suppress your content.
And so to finish that off, here's the deal. And I noticed this, like, with True Pundit, and anytime anybody gets an opportunity to speak about what's happened to them, us included,
It's all about us.
We
it's
all
about
have
us.
we all have a story, and it just goes to show you that there is a massive movement happening in our nation and around the world, and the fact that Google is working so hard to affect each individual, they're scared. They are so scared.
Do you know how many people it takes to go after little old us?
Yeah, exactly.
We're completely demonetized. Like even like my jam videos and my sauerkraut videos,
Right.
how-to videos, and it was after we did the El Paso shooter video.
Mm-hmm.
We still had some up that were okay. We could have contested
Right.
a lot of them. We still we're good standing with YouTube. We have no copyright strikes. We have no community guideline strikes. We're in good standing, but we can't be monetized.
Right.
That's political.
Exactly.
That's political because
Right.
we said the shooter was socialist.
Mhm.
That was where they drew the line and said, Mass
Right.
Faith 3, I see that they found us in the search results. Bam, we're taking your video off. No more monetization because you're not going to equate socialism with that shooting.
Exactly.
But you can equate Trump with the shooting. You can create gun control, and all those are probably still monetizable channels.
So I'm curious if we should, moving forward, play opposite day with all of our titles. Like, Trump's a racist.
We're not going to get our monetization back.
No. I just mean to get back into the search results. No, it's not. It wouldn't work because we've already been flagged. But imagine if somebody did that. Like, imagine if somebody started fresh with all of their talking points in the title and the description and so on and so forth. And everybody knew, kind of like Rainbow Snatch is Millie Weaver, and everybody knows, and they go to it anyway. I think that would really be something. I think somebody should try it.
Okay, here we go. Ready?
Second area.
This is YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki explaining what appears to be news and editorial decisions about authoritative and fake news.
Fake news. This is a hard area. A year ago, we didn't have the term fake news. Now everything is about fake news. We hear about it every single day. It's had a lot of concerns about how it affected the election, how it affects politics. News is important to us. We are a platform with global distribution. We talked about the number of users that are coming to us. We have some responsibility to make sure that we are delivering the news when something important happens in the world, when there's a crisis.
No. She said we have the responsibility to deliver the right news when important things are. So these are algorithms. She's literally telling you, doesn't matter what we say, what other people say, what goes viral. They are the curator of the news. They are the Washington Post. They are the Washington Journal. That is a publisher.
And when you say curator, for those that don't understand, it's the keeper of the news. That's what gets.
That's what your newspaper does. Your newspaper will take articles and say, well, this is what I believe is legit.
So they're a publisher.
Yeah.
Google is a publisher.
We think people could benefit from this news. So news has.
We think people can benefit from this news.
Always been important to YouTube. We also see people in locations like Syria where their traditional news organizations can't get to, and people are talking about citizen journalism coming out of Syria. So what are we doing? Basically, this sounds easy, but it's really hard to do. We're pushing down the fake news, we're demoting it, and we are increasing the authoritative news and promoting it.
Authoritative news.
We have a whole system.
And they're demoting everybody else, and that's what they're doing. Like, this is like, seriously, this one video, you gotta because take them apart. You gotta break them up.
You and I watched a video with Crowder, Louder with Crowder, and he had on a girl that was in German news, and they literally believe that it is okay to do what she's saying. Okay? So that's why yesterday when Lee and I were talking about this, I said, they're going to have to own it. Now that it's exposed, Google's going to have to come out and say, all right, so this is what we do, and we're right in what we do. And then let the chips fall where they may. And that's what's going to have to happen. She's going to have to own this video. Google's going to have to own this video. They're going to have to own their policies. They're going to have to own what they are doing, and then let the government and the people decide what to do from
news
there.
Where we build classifiers, we identify it, we look for salacious, for clickbait, content that isn't, that we don't think is the authoritative news. It's just
the authoritative news. What does that even? That sounds so communistic. Authoritative news. Anything that is a dissenting voice. Anything that does not come from the authority would be
I don't
deemed
need to read
authoritative
any more
news.
documents. I'm just going to play this over and over again. You're going to watch this video in every show that we put out.
Just kind of encouraging people to look at, but it's not true. We're training, we added these instructions to our raters, and we've updated our classifiers, and we are working to understand, identify that with machine learning, and then to push that down. And then we're increasing our authoritative news. We're doing...
Remember the stressor about discrimination?
That with things like a breaking news shelf. We're triggering it in the US, in France, in the UK, and more countries coming soon. Where we have sources that come from reputable sources. We work with Google News on that.
I love how she shows Fox News to show that they're being fair.
It triggered last week in the London Bridge attacks. It's also going to trigger on search. When you type in something, you're looking for a news event.
And you won't see us. You won't see InfoWars. You won't see anybody. You just see
authoritative news.
If this isn't a communist regime.
Unbelievable. Wow. I thought Matt was vacuuming earlier. It's the drill.
We're also working with a lot more news publishers. News publishers don't want to be in the technical business of running their own player. We can do that for them.
They're publishers. You're a publisher, ma'am.
We're going to do it for you, baby.
You're a
ABC,
publisher.
CBS, CNN, they're running their own players.
And we also want to get more news players on the platform. We have the goal of getting over 100 new news providers on our platform.
You got news. We're here. You want...
authoritative news. Hail authoritative news.
I'm done for the day.
All right, you guys, there's your show. I hope you've enjoyed a midweek break of and breaking news. What do we have? Can you see if this situation is over?
I can't even.
On Twitter here with the shooter in Philadelphia.
I can't even. I'm so stuck on this. This obviously she's putting spells on people, so she's a witch.
She put a spell on you. So what do we have?
I guess I have to go to YouTube.
Ha! To get the latest update?
Yeah, to get something going on.
This is absolute insanity, but the fact that it's being exposed is really, really good news. I'm very excited about this. This Project Veritas thing. You know, for a while there, they really tried to, discredit James O'Keefe. And just say he was just some bogus wannabe, whatever. And now the president has acknowledged James O'Keefe multiple times in person, saying what he is doing is legit undercover work. It's so incredible.
District Attorney Larry Krasner, again, once new information becomes available, we will update you. For now, we'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Okay, Kim, thank you so much. Here's some new information as well. Media.
There.
It was his house or not, but we do know that the situation continues and it doesn't look like it's going to be over.
It's still ongoing.
So these two cops are in there. The latest that we know is that they were going to shoot this coma-inducing grenade. We don't know how that panned out, but obviously not enough to knock out the shooters or the situation wouldn't be continuing. So I guess you guys will have to just monitor that, or actually follow Resistance Chicks on Facebook, and as soon as we find out the latest news, we will put it on Twitter and we will put it on Facebook for what's going on. So you guys can follow us there. So thanks for being with us. Remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory if Google is actually doing everything that we've always known that they're doing. It's not a theory. It's actually the truth. So we want you to like, comment, and subscribe to Masked Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks, both of our channels. We have to have a backup one just in case. Patriot Gallery has been breaking down all of these segments and putting them up. So if they're if these shows are too long for you and you just want to know one topic at a time, she's been doing that. So thank you, Patriot Gallery, for doing that. She's so wonderful.
That's amazing.
You know, our Facebook page has been getting a lot of hits. We've been covering a lot of amazing news on Facebook. So if you want the latest news that we don't even talk about here, you should be on the discussions that are taking place on Facebook. I know you don't like there. If you don't want an account for personal reasons, just get an account just so you can. I'm not trying to push Facebook, but you will get the latest of what's happening in the world.
We have a P.O. Box.
In America. P.O. Box 107, Milford, Ohio 45150. If you send us your letters, we will be reading them on air. All right, you guys. We love you. God loves you.
Thoughts and prayers to the Philly.
Absolutely. The police, the police department and all of the first responders and so on. Right. So God bless, guys.
was cold.